Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm meadsy69. Welcome back to the channel. Now today we are going to have a look at the ST EMIL. It's a German tank destroyer in tier 7. Now this tank is hard to play. It is hard to play because of obviously the armor. It has no turret, and it's one of a kind. It's basically one of a kind in tier 7. If you played the Dicker Max in tier 6, this is a very similar tank, very similar play style, but of course a tier above. Now I've compared this to a lot of the other tier 7s in tank destroyers, and as you can see, the DPM of the tank is 2,400. It's not as good as the rest of them. You can see there's 2,800, 2,700. Obviously there's a couple of tanks like the Stayer and the Blaze that are just poor DPM, but this is in the middle. It's not the best, it's not the worst, it's in the middle. Now where this tank can actually struggle, that it only has two shell types, and that's the normal AP and the HE. Now the HE is 65 millimeters. Now that's not actually a lot considering it doesn't have any other premium rounds, and that's for me the disappointment to this tank. Now so you've got 65 millimeters on your HE, which is basically like your premium. It hasn't got a premium round, so that is just, if you can't pen something with your standard round, then you're not going to pen it. Simple as. You can't switch to premium round, you're not going to pen it. Now the standard round, 231 millimeters, I think is actually the highest in tier 7 tank destroyers, 231. Compared to the rest, you can see some like the Blaze, which is just poor, 185, and you get some 190, 198, 215, and the SU 100M1 219. So it's got high AP pen, so of course against most tanks that will go through anything. But of course in tier 8, it's against those heavy tanks, you know, like the Tigers and the Tiger 2, sorry, the Object 140, sorry, the Object 252Us, IS3s, IS5s, stuff like that, you might struggle against. Whereas a tank like the SU 100M1, it's got 219 millimeters, which is still really good for tier 7, but the heat is over 330 millimeters, so that will go through anything. So you will struggle with this tank. It does have 460 alpha, and the reload is 11.3 seconds. It is 128 millimeter caliber, and the aim time really good at 1.54, and the dispersion at 0.326, but it has a whopping 15 degrees of gun depression. Yes, 15 degrees. And the speed actually isn't that bad at 30. You do struggle, of course, looking at the rest of them at 50. You do kind of struggle at 30 kilometers per hour. And of course the armor profile, it has no armor at 75 millimeters. So people are going to be able to penetrate you nice and easy. So how do you play the tank? Obviously it isn't the quickest of tanks, it isn't the best mobility of the tank, of any of the tanks, but it does have that high alpha gun, and it is a good gun, and it has the 15 degrees of gun depression, and you need to really use that 15 degrees of gun depression because you can't get caught out. You need your cover, you need protection from your team, and you need heals and dunes so you can use them for your safety, your protection, and that is the best way to use this tank. Now of course there are some maps that you don't really have the hills or dunes. This one, for instance, it really only has this bridge, and of course you do have the left side with the caps, but of course you need to go with your team. Now how I would usually play this tank is like the rest of the line, and that's basically just sort of sat at the back if you've got shots, and just ripping into the enemy, because your aim time is pretty good, your dispersion is pretty good, so it is kind of a good sniping tank. And if you are at the back of the map in a TD position, do still try to get on those ridge lines, because as soon as you shoot, you can back up and you are in cover. But obviously this map I'm not able to do that, because I mean it's it's not that kind of map. So I don't get the best of damages this game, but I just wanted to show you sort of like this game and how I play the tank, because if you are too aggressive in this tank, you're just going to get ripped apart. You will 100% get ripped apart. Now luckily the front of your plate, the front of your armor normally does withstand sort of the HE shots, but as soon as tanks get to the side of you, they will be able to HE you anywhere in the side, and don't expect to get many bounces in this tank, because you're just not gonna. You might get the lucky troll bounce, which you can still get on things like the grill and the waffle and the Borzik, but you can't really rely on that armor at all. So your best option is try to face the enemy as much as you can, because if they get behind you or if they get to the rear of you, you're just going to get absolutely obliterated, like badly, because they're not going to miss. They're going to use HE, or they should be using HE, and your hit points are just going to absolutely vanish. So at the moment it's a 5 versus 4. Of course we're going to try and get the nice HE shot there, 632 into the back of this T26E5, this Sheriff, and I'm just going to leave that guy and move on to the next target, because I actually think the Tiger is a more dangerous target than the Sheriff. I believe the Sheriff was actually going to get dealt with, and finally he does, and now it just leaves a 3 versus 2. Of course we got the Samoa up here, and we've got a heavy somewhere else as well, so we haven't done too much damage. We haven't blocked any damage, but we're still alive. And this tank, obviously not many people know how to play this tank. People struggle with the tank, and I can see why. I struggle with the tank, because there's certain ways to play the tank, and if you don't play it that certain way, then you're just going to get ripped apart, and you are going to get ripped apart. So now we're trying to find the Borzik. The Borzik is over there. He is a one shot, so we need to try and get our shell in. Now we are going to use HE. We're going to try and use HE because of my alpha and the armor of the Borask. I should be able to clear him with the HE shot. So there's now just 3 of us chasing this Borask. Of course I'm not going to go left, because my other tanks are already going left, so I'm going to go and try and block him off and go right, but of course I missed the first shot. Now luckily I do have buildings either side of me, so I do have that protection, and always try to have that protection in any slow tank, whether it be this, whether it be something like the T95. Now this guy can only go one way, so we are finally going to get the shot. So we do get 4 kills that game. We don't do the best amount of damage, but we do still managed to get 4 kills, and that was actually enough for a first class. So you can see not many people perform well in the tank. If that's a first class, I mean, if I would have done another 500, maybe another kill as well, that would have actually been an ace. So I don't like the tank. Honestly, I don't really like this tank. I think it would be much better if it did have that premium ammo, because I mean nearly every tank, especially in tier 7 and tier 8 and tank like this, they rely on the premium ammo when they're coming up against heavy tanks, like heavily armored tanks. Of course you need that ammo, you need that penetration, where this just hasn't got it. Yes, it is the highest pen tank in tier 7 with the standard round, but when you've got no premium round, if it has no premium round, then I would have liked a higher HE pen. Because at least you would have been able to, you know, that covers the premium round you lost. So we're going to have a watch a game here, and again, completely different game to the one I played, and he's going to do what you really should do in this tank, and that is just to sit at the back, let your team spot, and you just use that accuracy, use that gun depression, and use the aim time just to farm on the tanks that are spotted. Of course, there's not much gun elevation in this tank, so do bear that in mind when you are in the corner of the map. It doesn't have the best of gun elevations, as we can see here with this guy struggling to get these shots off, which is very, very unfortunate. But now he's managed to position himself where he can actually get these shells out, and there's quite a few tanks in this direction that he's going to have shots off. Of course, the IS-2 there, you've got the Eagle there, and look at that for accuracy. Like, that's just, the accuracy on this tank is actually really, really good, the same as the aim time. And most other times this is the problem. If you, in this position, you can only see a little bit of grey in that tank because of the positioning that tank was in. You would normally switch to premium ammo just to guarantee the pen, but you can't in this tank, and that's the problem. You have to go for these shots that you wouldn't think you're going to hit. It's the smallest of sections, and you have to shoot. If you want to try and do damage, you have to shoot. Either that, or you just try and splash with the HE and risk doing sort of 100 damage, but you don't want to keep doing that because the DPM will just keep going lower. But this guy's actually done really well. He hasn't missed anything he's going for. He's actually hitting. Now he's going to try and go for the HE there, but there's no need. He is a one shot, and he does clear the T34 100. So he's now farmed up 3k damage just sitting at the back. He's not been spotted, he hasn't moved, but he's managed to farm up 3k damage. Now it is now a 3 versus 3. Of course, the 45 TP over there is a one shot. He's not a problem because you could just switch to HE and clear that guy. But at the minute, there's no reason for him to move because his team are still there. Camper, yes, we are camping, but who the hell has done 3k damage? He has. So he's done the right thing. And now because he's full hit points and because the enemy are kind of lowish, obviously one tank is lowish, he will then be able to move ahead and use his hit points. And it wouldn't matter too much if he gets shot because he's got full hit points, and he's just farmed these guys down. He's whittled them down, their HP down, and then he makes the move. And I love the fact that he's still not wanting to move. He's still being very patient, very patient. I wouldn't have been that patient, and I would have moved a long time ago. But I love how patient he was being. He knows that his tanks are there, and he knows that they are going to spot. So there was no reason for him to move. Now here comes the AT-15. That is a tank he needs to be very careful of because he has fantastic DPM. So he does actually bounce 200 damage, which is still decent. You're not always going to bounce anything in this tank, and unfortunately he does miss that shot on the AT, but he does again have cover, and I love that. I love the fact that he is looking for that cover. He didn't push forward. He didn't just think, right, it's a 3 versus 2, we're going to win. He wanted to save his hit points. Yes, he would have taken out the AT-15, but how much hit points would he lose dealing with that guy? And with these two, you don't know how good they are. Yes, they're almost full hit points, but you don't know if they can deal with the Gravedigger. The Gravedigger is actually a very good tank when you're top tier. So even tier 7s sometimes do struggle with the Gravedigger. And of course, he's full hit points as well. So he didn't take any chances at all with that AT-15. And I love that. I love the fact that he didn't take them chances. And now it's just a 3 versus 1. He can push forward. Now look at that gun depression. He's on a ridgeline and he can still get his gun all the way down. And that is literally, if you can't sit at the back of the map, if you got no shots, always go to try and find a ridgeline. Of course, as I said at the start, it doesn't have any gun elevation, so do bear that in mind, because that will, as you see, this guy did struggle at the beginning with that gun elevation. So do try and get on a ridgeline, use that gun depression, and when you take your shot, all you got to do is reverse up, and then all of a sudden you're in cover. And always try to have as much cover as you possibly can, whether that will be your allies or whether that will be buildings, rocks, anything like that. Anything that can protect you from anyone circling you, do that, because you need to face the enemy at all times. If you don't, you're going to know about it and you're just going to get absolutely ripped apart. So 4k damage now, just the one shot left to go with the Gravedigger, and I believe he is going to get the shot. He's on 3 kills. The Gravedigger is now a one shot, and he's just going to turn around the corner and he's going to get the kill with the HE, and he's going to clear him. So there we go. There is the ST EMIL. Very difficult tank to play. I mean, a lot of people will play this tank because they want to get to the waffle and they want to get to the grill. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think of this tank? Do you struggle like I do, or do you find it easy to play? Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. I'm Meadsy, and I'll catch you all soon. Bye bye.